Welcome to All Things Moore County, Moore County's weekly radio show, highlighting the many facets of the Sandhills. That includes real estate, lifestyles, community, and neighborhood. And now, from 4 Properties, here's your host, Bill Sahadi.
Our house in the middle of our street.
Good morning and welcome to this beautiful October morning, All Things Moore County. We've had a couple of interesting shows in the last couple of weeks.
We've had lots of interesting shows. We always do.
You remember the show we did a couple of weeks ago with Kirsten and Jody Foyles?
Yes, there was lots of energy in the room that day.
Well, that walk for diabetes research is coming up on the 22nd of October.
Yep.
And we're actually, and we think that just making people aware of a situation, sometimes people can have some knowledge, cursory knowledge about a subject, but not a whole lot. And so making people aware about situations like that is a first step to getting people to acknowledge and to contribute and to help fund research. And we're going to shift gears a little bit today, and we're going to be talking with Katie Tuttle, who is the Regional Director of Development for the National Brain Tumor Society. And you ask yourself, well, why would we be doing that? It certainly is a little bit different than some of the topics we've had. And the shows, we try so hard to make sure they have a Moore County basis. And it does, unfortunately. A friend of ours who is a realtor member of our Realtor Association here in Moore County, Susan Ulrich, who works for Berkshire Hathaway, who I've known on and off for about 8 or 9 years. Susan has a 32-year-old daughter who was diagnosed back in 2012 with brain cancer, and I spoke to Susan this morning, and just to put a framework around this conversation, her daughter is terminal. They have hospice in. She's obviously living with her mom and her dad, and their daughter Katie was she was an artsy type of individual, photography and art. She graduated from Presbyterian College, and kind of a free spirit, and in 2012 she has been fighting a battle over the last 4 years that has not just been a downhill battle. There were actually some areas, I understand, where there was a remission, and then there was hope, and then it sort of came back. And they're doing a fundraiser, and Katie has started, and she wrote a letter. Katie, can I read the letter?
Yeah, absolutely.
And good morning, by the way.
Good morning.
It's called Join Team Kate, and it's to support her wish to help others. And it's like a GoFundMe type site.
Yep.
Hello, friends. Since 2012, I have been locked in a tough battle with brain cancer. I have had surgery, radiation, treatments, chemotherapies, and so many MRIs that if they had a frequent user club, I would be at the highest level. Over the past 4 years, there have been times when the cancer was not growing, and I thought I could get back to some semblance of normal life. However, brain cancer is a fierce and insidious opponent. It's not easily defeated, and it never gives up. Brain cancer also is relatively rare, and so compared to other cancers, gets less attention and less research funding. That is why I'm asking for your assistance in the fight against this horrible disease. And she's asking for this assistance for others,
Yes.
not for herself.
That's correct.
From the time I was diagnosed, I have had unwavering support from family, friends, and even complete strangers. It is time for me to pay it forward. By lending my name and my story to this cause, hopefully I can help to raise funds for brain cancer research. It is my goal that these funds can help find a cure for this disease so that those who are diagnosed in the future might lead long and happy lives. Thank you for your donation and your support. Warmest regards, Kate. heartwarming letter.
Absolutely. She's an incredible girl too. We went and we met with her and her mother and a few of her mother's friends, and this was about a month ago.
Right.
And she was in good spirits, but you can tell it's a tough battle. I with this role that I play in the National Brain Tumor Society, I meet quite a few people who are battling brain tumors and their loved ones who are fighting the good fight along with them. And one of the most sobering and heartbreaking things about this field is that there is no cure, and there are only 3 drugs and 1 device to fight over 120 different types of brain tumors.
When I spoke to Susan this morning, she told me something I couldn't believe it, that the medications that they use are 30 years old.
They are. We have the biggest problem that we face, and the reason why the National Brain Tumor Society exists, is that there's not enough money. Because this disease is considered relatively rare, even though 77,000 people will be diagnosed with a brain tumor in the United States this year.
What percentage?
77,000 people will be diagnosed. And on top of that, brain cancer is the #1 cancer killer of kids in the United States today. It exceeds leukemia. They just put out a study that showed that brain cancer is the #1 cancer killer of kids. And yet there is not enough funding to find more treatments and ultimately a cure. We haven't found any new drugs in several decades, and it's heartbreaking.
And from what I've read, and I am really a layman, so I'll just say that, there are so many different types of brain tumors.
There are.
Are there origins in genetics, or do they know?
We have no idea what causes brain tumors. The only thing that we know that does cause a brain tumor is the radiation that you can get, that you receive for cancer. So, for example, if you were to receive radiation for, breast cancer or liver cancer or another brain tumor, you could very well end up with a brain tumor. And that's the only thing we know that causes brain tumors.
So there's no research, or there's no pattern of...
There has been research, but unfortunately, again, it is, when you hear brain tumor, you think, wow, that's like a lightning strike. And unfortunately, it isn't. And when this kind of thing happens to you or a loved one, it doesn't seem so rare anymore. 700,000 people are living with a brain tumor today. And unfortunately, their survival rate, their 5-year survival rate, is 20% or less. And that means that only 20% of people who have a cancerous brain tumor will live 5 years. That's unreal.
Tell me about the walk you have planned, because it's next Saturday, the 22nd?
The 22nd, yep.
Okay.
It'll be at the Village Green in Pinehurst. Okay. My good friend Joni O'Brien, who's here with us, is the chair of the walk and has put in a lot of hard work, and we're so grateful to her. She's one of our top fundraisers for the National Brain Tumor Society in the South.
Joni, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm fine. And you?
I'm good. How did you hook up with Katie?
Well, my husband was diagnosed in September of 2014 with a glioblastoma, and went through the typical...
What is a glio? Help me out.
It's a brain tumor, and unfortunately, it's the deadliest brain cancer that
and
there
the most
is.
common.
And it has, he had the tumor removed. However, this glioblastoma has tentacles that wrap itself in the brain, and it will grow back. My husband Steve's grew back during radiation, just weeks after his surgery, and within 6 months he was gone. So after he had died, I don't know, you just can't stop reading about it, because you can't get over it. It's something you just can't get over.
Right.
And I came upon the National Brain Tumor Society, and they were having a walk in Charleston, South Carolina. So I got a hold of Katie Rose and volunteered at it and went to the walk. And you can't believe how wonderful these walks are. The amount of people that come there, the families, and they're so supportive of each other, not just within their families, but with other groups of people who have experienced any kind of a brain cancer. So I just thought, well, maybe we could do that in Pinehurst, and it was just something I wanted to do to honor my husband also.
Did you know Susan already?
No, I did not.
Okay.
I can't remember how. I have a friend who's a realtor who works for Berkshire Hathaway, and she had told me
Okay.
that some of Susan's friends wanted to start a team. So we got a hold of her, and Katie Rose and I went over and met Kate a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
Okay. It's one of the things we say about Moore County is it's a very small community, and the circles get very small very quickly. Everything is intertwined, and so you were able to reach out through a mutual friend, I guess, of Susan's,
Right.
and plus with your experience. Tell me, if you can, about the discovery of the tumor that Steve had, and how it affected you, and how it hit you, and came out of nowhere.
It did. It basically did come out of nowhere. I think he had been hiding a little bit of something from me. This was a man who was so intelligent and so full of life, and so loved by so many people. And he just phoned me one day when I wasn't home and said, "I think you better come and bring me to the hospital, because what I'm typing on the keyboard is not what's coming out on the computer screen." So we initially thought that maybe it was a precursor to a stroke, and went to the emergency room where they did a CAT scan, saw that it was a tumor, then an MRI, but they couldn't really say for sure that it was a glioblastoma until after the surgery. And how it affected me, it was devastating. I know it's been a year and a half, and it's terrible. What it's done to our family. We're all just so sad about it. But the thing with me is I am still stuck on the surgeon coming in and saying, "You have brain cancer." You just can't get over that.
You've been here 6-7 years in Moore
Just
County?
about 7 years.
And where did you come from?
We're originally from Chicago.
What brought you here?
Golf.
Yeah. Yeah. You have kids?
Yes, my husband had 5, and he and I have 1.
Wow. How from the time he was diagnosed, how long was he alive?
6 months. Almost 6 months to the day he was
Wow.
diagnosed.
Wow.
And it was just a devastating thing also to watch what happens to these people. And I know Susan is going through it right now with Kate.
Right.
They're one way, 6 months ago, and the decline it just robs you of everything. I know my husband lost his ability to see out of his right side. He, became almost paralyzed on his right side. There's one thing I have to say, though, and I've spoken to pretty many people in Pinehurst trying to get money, and I've run into a lot of people who have relatives who have brain cancer or had brain cancer. And even stuff that I read on the websites that we get, everybody who has it and the people who are their caretakers all say they never complained. They kept such a great attitude, and that's what my husband was like too. He never once complained or blamed anybody or was angry about it.
So she's talking about some of the telltale signs.
Yeah.
Motor activity, cognitive activity.
Yeah, a lot of times, unfortunately, brain cancer isn't diagnosed until it's very long along the progression, and oftentimes the initial marker is a grand mal seizure. So a lot of times a person will go into the ER because they've had a major seizure, and they are then put through the CAT scan and MRI, and there it is. Sometimes it's headaches. Sometimes it's blurred vision. Sometimes it's you're saying one thing, but it's coming out different. It just depends on where the tumor is in your brain. We have a little boy, Parker, who lives in outside of Charlotte, North Carolina. He's 7 years old. He has an oligodendroglioma. Say that 10 times fast. And he probably was born with it. But finally, at around age 6, we figured out, the doctor said, okay, well, you did have some limpness in your right arm, but we thought that was just maybe you were born with a little bit of cerebral palsy. And it turns out, nope, he had a tumor in his brainstem and his spine from when he was born. And so, every tumor, with there being 120 different types, every tumor presents differently, and
Well-
where it is makes a big difference.
And the neurosurgeon had told us with Steve, it had probably only been there for 2 months.
Right, and the GBM's glioblastoma multiforme, which is the most common and the deadliest form of brain cancer, it hits very quickly and is very aggressive. Our goal, we have a program to fund research. It's called Defeat GBM, and our goal is to increase the 5-year survival rate to 5%.
That's baby steps.
And for us, that's huge.
Right, but you have to
Yeah.
start with baby
You
steps.
do. But how scary is that's a goal of a large fundraising initiative? That's a big step for us.
So there are no predispositions
None.
to, and the medicines that are used to treat have been in practice for 30 years.
Yeah, we have some new ways to use those medications, but the biggest thing is that these are chemotherapy drugs, and I don't know if you've ever heard of the blood-brain barrier before, but essentially there is a barrier that is around your brain that is there to protect your brain from anything that you could encounter in the world. Say you get food poisoning, or you have a virus, or you have an infection. That barrier keeps those things from getting to your brain. Well, that barrier also keeps the chemotherapy from getting to your brain. So this chemotherapy medicine that we use doesn't always get into the brain. So we have to give our patients massive doses of chemotherapy that we wouldn't give somebody with breast or lung or liver cancer, so that just some of it can get to the brain.
Yeah. Next week, Join Team Kate's going to have a walk in the village of Pinehurst to raise some funds on a local level.
Yes.
But this is done all over the country.
It's done all over the country,
Yeah, we're going to come back in the second set. We're going to talk about the expanse of your society, and we also want to talk about a couple of national cases that people would identify with brain cancer. This is All Things Moore County. We'll be right back.
In the middle of our house. In the middle of our street. Our house. In the middle of our house, it has a crowd. There's always something happening, and it's usually quite loud. Our mum, she's so house proud.
Welcome back to our second set. We're speaking with Katie Tuttle and Joni O'Brien, not just in conjunction with next Saturday's Walk for Team Kate, but all about brain tumors, brain cancer. It is insidious. I think a lot of people, they remember Ted Kennedy.
Yes.
They remember Joe Biden's son, which was just about a year and a half ago or 2 years ago.
It was last summer.
It was last summer, right. And people get taken by it, but with Ted Kennedy's, you saw him on TV deteriorate. And I guess that's how people get exposed when they get to see something like that.
It's a very difficult thing to do, and it's probably the greatest pain and the greatest honor of the job that I have. I have the great gift of being able to sit by people's sides who are dying of a brain tumor, and that can be heartbreaking, but it can also be an incredibly meaningful and enlightening experience.
So your your job is you're the catalyst.
Yes.
You're the fundraiser.
Yes.
You're the cheerleader. You're the
Yeah.
you're the conduit. Right?
I am. Yep.
That you whip everyone into shape and you create. Is that right? I mean,
Maybe.
you are very shy, and I don't know
Oh, yes,
how
I'm so shy.
how you overcome it, but No, but you have a very engaging. You have to reach out to people all the time,
do.
and you have to get in their face.
Yep.
And so one observation I make of you is when you speak, boy, are you like making eyeball to eyeball contact. You don't look down at your knees and talk. You don't
Right.
shrug your shoulders. You get a point across, and then people will get enrolled. How long have you been in this fundraising?
I've been with the National Brain Tumor Society for 3 years.
Okay.
Before that, I worked for the American Diabetes Association. So
Okay.
I've been doing this for quite some time. But I can't imagine working anywhere else ever again.
Well, with your experience with diabetes, there's so much money being raised. There's so much progress being made, especially for type 1 diabetics. And that's what Kirsten was on the show talking about, because she's had a 10 or 11 year journey with her daughter Lauren. They're like, it's very popular out there.
Unfortunately, a lot of that is because there's a lot of money to be made in making drugs for diabetes. There's not a lot of money to be made in developing drugs for brain tumors. And, that's unfortunately the reality of it. And that's why we raise the money we do, is so that we can find the money. We can make that money appear. Because pharma companies aren't going to put the money in to develop a drug that might help 70,000 people. They're just not. And then on top of that, of those 77,000 people that will be diagnosed this year, that's 120 different types of brain tumors. That's like, having 77,000 people being diagnosed with every single possible cancer. Why would you put a little bit of money into, or a great amount of money into, the development of a drug that might help 1/120th of that population? And so that's why we do this, because it is important, because that one person who is fighting that brain tumor deserves a chance, and they deserve our support.
So, Joni, I have to ask you, when your husband was diagnosed, did you feel powerless in terms of what they prescribed and what they to care for him?
No, I don't think we felt powerless. We probably felt ignorant. We just didn't believe or realize that this was going to turn out the way that it did. I trusted in our doctors here in Moore County. I really did. We had a wonderful surgeon, a wonderful oncologist, and a wonderful radiologist, and I had faith in them, and I knew that they were doing as much as they could do.
But Katie, you said that once a brain tumor is the chances of survival past 5 years is very small.
Very slim. What's very difficult is that it doesn't have to be malignant or cancerous to be deadly for a brain tumor, because your brain is your motherboard of your entire body.
Right.
So you can have a benign brain tumor, but it could completely devastate your ability to speak.
Yeah.
If it's on your brainstem, that's the entire powerhouse of your body. You can't breathe, or your heart can't beat without your brainstem. And so if there's a tumor there, it doesn't matter whether it's cancerous or not.
We talked a little bit before the show about my experience with a gentleman here in Pinehurst who contacted me back about 4 months ago. He told me that I didn't know he wanted to list his home for sale. He told me that he had the same cancer that Ted Kennedy had. And that's the extent of what I knew about brain cancer. I remember the process with Kennedy, and it was at the 2008, 2000, because it was at the time of the convention. Yeah. So he has days where he has bad balance. He has days where he overheats. The doctor told him that he had to move to another home that was on a more level ground because of his balance issues. And this gentleman has 8 kids. And there are days I look at him and I think he seems fine. We had some volunteers working on this house for him, and he actually came over. He drove himself over to the house, and he addressed them. He talked to all of them. It was Team Rubicon. They were in red, white, and blue. They were 2 military volunteer organizations that through Facebook they got people to come in and they painted and they laid floor and they redid his deck and they landscaped. And he came and he held court and he spoke to them, and we have a video of it.
Yeah.
So then he gets false hope, and you get stops and starts. Like Kate was saying, she went through, I guess, a period of, is it remission?
Yes and no. It's a one of our survivors who's also an advocate, Debbie Kirasol. One thing that she says is there's no cure. If you're lucky, you get a pause. So, but it will kill you. And unfortunately, that's the fact of any malignant brain tumor. It will kill you. And that is a very, very scary thing to hear. One thing you were mentioning with the military volunteer groups, the majority of the funding for cancer research at the NIH comes from the National Defense Fund. So whenever it's approved for the NIH, it comes from the National Defense budget.
I don't understand. Why would that be?
There's a lot of theories, but first, cancer is any funding for the cancer research is comes from the National Defense Fund.
Wow.
So, when we look back to the things that our military were exposed to over many years,
right.
A lot of that has caused cancers. If you think about our men and women who fearlessly went into 9/11, a lot of them have since suffered some pretty significant cancers. So, it's important that we take care of those who take care of us.
The walk next week is, even though it's being held in Pinehurst, can you just give me a little bit of the specifics about the time and?
Sure. Excuse me.
Joni, yeah.
The night before, we're going to hold a garden party, and it's going to be at the home of Gil and Christine Pritchard. They're friends of mine, and they have a beautiful garden. So she agreed to have it at her house. We'll have raffle items there that people can get. And then the next day, on Saturday morning, the walk will start, or registration and everything will start in Tufts Park, which is right in the village. So registration is from 7:30 to 8:30. The walk will start at 9 o'clock, and at 10:30 there's going to be an awards and celebration ceremony. Now, it is not a long walk at all, because the people that come to these are, large groups of families. There will be people in wheelchairs. There's children in strollers. People bring their dogs. I mean, it isn't a race or anything like that.
Sure.
And the walk is just right through the village. It's only going to be a little over a mile. Of course, anybody could do it 3 times if they want to make it a 5K.
And they can do it. Yep.
It almost sounds like a grassroots type organization that you're just starting. It's very organic.
It is.
Slowly throwing seeds here, all over the country.
Yes, so I'm actually the regional director of development for the Southeast, the capital in the Southeast. So I cover, my northernmost event is the Baltimore Brain Tumor Walk, which was September 10th. And it was our first year ever. We had over 2,000 people there, and we raised over $200,000. It was incredible. It was just the most beautiful day. And then we have the Race for Hope DC in DC, and that is I believe it's May 1st this year. No, it's May 6th. And then we have one in Charleston, a race in Charlotte, this walk in Pinehurst. We have a walk in Virginia Beach that just happened on October 1st. And, now we're moving even more south. We hope to do something in Atlanta soon, and then also something in Miami. And that's my territory. I have several other peers across the country who do the same thing. But we just kind of came into the South 3 years ago. And so that my whole job is to move forth and create our community.
What, do you sleep?
No. I also have 3 stepdaughters, so I don't sleep very much.
Do you really?
Yeah. Yes.
You travel a lot?
I do.
Obviously.
I travel a lot. I'm home about a week a month.
Wow.
And other than that, I'm traveling. And the main reason is that there's no time. It can't wait. Too many people need us. Too many people need our support. Too many people feel alone and isolated and like they're the only person in the whole world who could get this.
But there's a real local flavor to what you're doing, because we can't rely on the government.
Right.
Everyone has to self-generate, and again, this has a real organic feel to it. And how does it spread? Well, people that you know personalize it. I mean, your husband, Susan's daughter, and all of a sudden, it's now in my forefront where it wasn't 2 weeks ago. So once you become aware of something, that's the most important first step.
It is, and that's why we do what we do. I don't think, for the caregivers that I've met, for the families I've met, I can't imagine feeling this alone.
Right.
And I don't want anybody to ever feel that way.
Right.
So that's why we do what we do.
She's a pretty high energy lady, huh?
Yes, she is. Yes, she is. And every walk there is, you can't believe what the people write about her. I mean, she's just so supportive of everybody, and
off the charts. We have to work on her shyness.
I know.
We'll talk about it later. We're going to come back in the third set. We're talking about the National Brain Tumor Society, upcoming walks throughout the country, but in particular here in Pinehurst next Saturday, to help Kate Ulrich. This is All Things Moore County.
The small kids, she's the one they're going to miss in lots of ways. In the middle of our street, our house. In the middle of our house, it has a crown.
Welcome back to our final set of All Things Moore County. Fascinating discussion. A lot of humility, kind of humbling. You guys are making me, and I think a lot of people who are listening, aware of things that they might not have been aware of. The disease has a lot of origins that people don't know about. I mean, and the National Brain Tumor Society is at the forefront of getting the information out there.
Our two main focuses are advocacy and research. That is all we do. So we work directly with our elected officials to increase awareness and to work to pass legislation that will be supportive of brain cancer research. And then we also we have major funds for research. Some of them, one of the ones we're most proud of recently is it's called Defeat Pediatric Brain Tumors. We have put a significant amount of money toward just research on pediatric brain tumors. The tough thing is, if you're a kid with a brain tumor, you are a clinical trial in itself. We do not know how to treat kids with brain tumors. So it's like throwing darts and hoping you get close. So that's pretty tough.
There are a lot of voices out there trying to be heard with the government. There are a lot. I mean, government can only do so much.
Correct.
And we're in this crazy political season. You wonder how you get your voice heard. But you both made a great point. The attendance at this walk is a very good way to start, isn't it?
It is.
And why does the attendance matter?
Well, the attendance matters to me, anyways. Is that I think it gives people, caregivers, and families of people with brain tumors, it makes them feel good. To me, that's what it was. It just to see the camaraderie was just encouraging, and I really hope that Kate Ulrich is able to come, because I think it will make her feel good and her family.
Right. And she is she's very brave, and she's, that concept of paying it forward and doing something for somebody else also tends to get people's attention.
It does.
Because there's nothing in it for her.
Correct. She is terminal.
Right.
So, and every day is different. There's some good days and some bad days, but the outcome is the same, unfortunately. That is a very tough reality, and I cannot imagine what it is to live that diagnosis for it to be, what you're going through.
Susan was telling me that there isn't 5 minutes that goes by where either she or her husband are not with her.
Yep.
So it's around the clock, and I guess they have hospice at the house.
Mm-hmm.
I had my mom passed away in '07. She had cancer. It went to the brain.
Correct.
But it didn't start in the brain. And my sisters were primary caregivers, and my brother and I just had to take orders from my sisters. That was our job. We did a good job. But kidding around, they were exhausted.
Yeah.
After my mom passed.
Mm-hmm.
The whole caregiving process was just exhausting. It took them literally over a year to just sort of get back into the swing of things.
Well, it becomes your identity and your job, and then when it's over, you're left going, well, now what?
Right.
But I honestly don't think I felt that way. I felt it was such a privilege to take care of my husband, and really a privilege to be there with him when he died. And I would do it again in a heartbeat.
Wow.
And a lot of caregivers say that.
Okay.
It is exhausting. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But to be able to be there, to be able to share those moments, those very sacred moments with someone you love,
Right.
it's an honor.
So Susan, I mean, I'm sure she would agree with that
Absolutely.
wholeheartedly.
100%.
She has a son, I guess, who's out in Arizona, and this is her only daughter. Oh, I mean, it's just, it's 15 years ago, if we could take you back 15 years in time to do this, we probably would be way further ahead. But 15 years ago, you didn't have the impetus of social media
Correct.
for fundraising.
Yeah.
Makes a big difference.
It does. And we have a Facebook page. It's the Southeast Brain Tumor Community page. So if you go on Facebook and you put in the search bar Southeast Brain Tumor, it'll come up. Like us, we share information about research, we share information about our organization, and we share information about walks that are coming up. We also use it as a way to brag on our folks who are raising a lot of money. So we do that as well. I'm on Twitter. It's at Tater Rose. So that's fun. But I talk about brain tumors and also about my crazy little family.
At Tater Rose?
Tater Rose.
T-A?
Taterrose.
Okay. At Tater Rose, Twitter. Okay.
Yep.
We want to actually put all this information together so people can read about it when we post this on the podcast, because this conversation could be 6 months from now. It's not so time sensitive just because there's a walk
Absolutely.
coming up on the
And there'll be a walk next year
22nd.
too, and the year after that. So
Yeah, and each year, you'll build momentum.
absolutely.
I've seen the Foyles family over 10 years with their march for type 1 diabetes. Their walk has become legendary. Each year people go up to Winston-Salem. The group gets larger and larger, and they're there with a lot of other teams, and it's all for the kids. Many different teams are out there walking. So in that regard, starting what you're doing at this organic level is so important.
Yeah. And I think, we talked about, what can you do? How can you make your voice heard, especially in this kind of political climate? I think what is most important is if you want to let people know where your values stand, where your heart is, show up.
Yeah.
Show up financially and show up in person. Whatever it is that is important to you, be it brain tumors, be it diabetes, be it whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Get out there, show up, talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
We cannot change as a community, as a culture, unless we get out there and we do something about what's important to us.
Yeah. Joni, you mentioned you have 6. What can I ask the ages, the range?
Well, obviously, not all of them are mine. Steve and I have one son. He's 34 years old. He's a doctor in the Navy.
Okay.
So he was pretty helpful during Steve's. The others range in age from 54 to 40-something. It's hard to remember.
Oh my goodness! I was thinking you were going to be saying 20s
No.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, Steve and I were married for over 33 years, so.
Wow. So they're not all here. They're
No,
all over
no
the
one's
country.
here.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Will any of them be in?
They're all
this
coming
week?
in. They're
Are
all
they?
coming in, yeah. So there'll be
I can't wait to meet them
husbands
all.
and wives and a few grandchildren.
Okay. So, I mean, yeah, this becomes a rallying cry too, doesn't it?
It is. These walks, when you show up, there is a feeling. I mean, I get the feeling in my heart even just thinking about it. And Joni has said this too. You show up at one of these walks, it's not just a, yay, hurrah, we're here. It is a feeling of excitement, enthusiasm, hope, desperation, passion, community. I mean, you've got all these people coming together who are scared and alone, and tired or sad. They're all mad that this is happening, and they suddenly show up, and they're not alone anymore.
Right.
There's so many people out there who
Right.
feel exactly the same way they do, and that is such an inspiring moment to see all these folks come together to fight a brain tumor, fight brain cancer.
Well, I hope I can't thank you both enough for coming in and to share, and I hope next week you have a lot of volunteers, a lot of walkers, a lot of awareness, and there's a dinner party Friday.
Well, it's
Garden.
not a dinner party. It's just appetizers, which, by the way, Elliot's on Linden is supplying the all the food for that. And the next morning they are supplying coffee and a little breakfast,
Yeah, a
I
little
guess.
breakfast. Yeah. So they've just been. Mark Elliott has been a great supporter of ours for many years, of mine for many years. And we walked in. I called him that day. I said, "Hey, you free? Can I come see you?" And he said, "Yeah, come on by." And I asked him. He said, "Whatever you need." And so he's just a great man. And so we're very grateful to him. The hospital, First Health, is providing our waters. Lowe's Foods is providing our bananas, and they also give us some funds to get some other grocery items. And I think the biggest thing is folks come out and sign up for the garden party, the cocktail party on the Friday night, or come out and walk with us. Both events you can register for at braintumorwalk.org/Pinehurst. And you can also email me at krtuttle@braintumor.org.
krtuttle@
braintumor.org.
You're very impressive.
Thank you.
Young lady. You're both very impressive. And we wish Susan and her family the very best
Absolutely.
at
We
this
do.
time, and thank Kate for helping to be a catalyst in her own way,
Yes.
because that's a legacy that she gets to leave.
It is.
Yeah. Good luck next week,
Thank you.
and everyone, thank you for listening, and we'll speak with you next week.
Thank you.
In the middle of our street, our house. In the middle of our house, it has a crowd. There's always something happening, and it's usually quite loud.